This is Festival Pass Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next. All right, welcome back, friends, to the Festival Pass Stories podcast. We are, as always, presented by Dos Hombres, the award-winning artisanal mezcal meant to be shared, created by Aaron Paul, Brian Cranston, and Gregorio Velasco. Have a drink with us at doshombres.com/delivery. And you know what? I think our guest today is going to be talking about sharing some mezcal. But folks, do you ever want to have that opportunity to invest in a product early that could be the next Airbnb? Yeah, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. So learn why entrepreneurs and celebrities with exits approaching 10 billion with the old B have already invested in Festival Pass. Go to invest.festivalpass.com to learn more. And festival friends, it is always a special day in the FPS pop-up studio here when we can get the opportunity to talk to a trailblazer and a festival founder. So please welcome on the 2s and the 10s, the founder of the Okeechobee Music and Arts Festival and many other things we'll get to in a minute, Julio Santo Domingo. Julio, what's happening?
Hey, man, what's up? How are you doing, Pat?
Doing well. You know, I could have added world traveler, DJ, the gent from Geneva, warehouse cleaning specialist, Halloween champion, but I thought we would just get into those titles and explore those stories as we went along in our conversation. How's that sound?
That's perfect. Wherever you want to go, we'll go.
And that's your life. It's sort of been wherever you want to go or wherever someone is going to take you. So I think we should just start with the fact that you were born in Arizona, but I think your family saw a banking prodigy or maybe a chocolate prodigy or something that, because they whisked you away to Geneva, Switzerland at 1 month old. I mean, I know you don't remember that, but this was your childhood.
There's a simple explanation for that. My mother grew up there, and so my grandparents were there, and that's where my dad and my mom decided to go after his university MBA was done in Arizona. So he, I was born in May, and people graduate around that time. So that's why we didn't hang out much after that, and went straight to Switzerland. And I'm very glad I grew up there. I love cheese, and
or maybe a cheese prodigy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm a fundamentalist, so.
I like that. It's good play on words there, fundamentalist. But you were born in Arizona, so friends, he can run for president. And look out for that. Look out for that. Okeechobee is just the beginning. So while you're growing up there in Switzerland, you also become essentially a DJ prodigy, and you start hosting a weekly show at your high school. Is this correct?
Yeah. So my high school in Switzerland had a radio station, and me and my really good friend Sasha, we basically decided to do a weekly radio show. And it wasn't very original as a name. It was called the Reggae Show. And we used to basically, just play reggae songs for an hour. And it was like these two little, I think like they were like Denon, rack CD players where the tray comes out. And,
I know.
And there's a little like wheel, you put your finger to fast forward or rewind. And it was not much to it, and then we'd talk in between the songs and, chit chat here and there, and that was first experience with in the DJing world.
And why reggae? Why was it the reggae show? There was, I mean, at that time, I know reggae has been popular for a long time, but why at that time in your life was it reggae?
I don't know. We were 15. We both listened to a lot of reggae, and we love Bob Marley, of course.
Yeah.
And
guilty as well.
Sort of, we're getting Bob Marley is a huge influence in my life. I think every single song that he wrote and all his lyrics are such powerful message, and positive message always.
I listened to the album Rastaman Vibration so much on cassette to a point where my sisters just came in the room. They're like, "Will you stop? Listen to anything else, please?" And
he's probably the only artist that I can, sing every song that he has, as I'm listening to the music, and I don't really retain lyrics too much, but his lyrics I remember all of them.
Do you have of all the great Marley hits, is there one that you lean on for a quote, or it is positive? I mean, my sister barging into the room, I was like, this is not what Mr. Marley is trying to portray, man. You're missing the message. But is there anything that sort of guided you in your life? Any particular Marley message?
You're putting me on the spot here, but it's always hard to think about stuff when there's the pressure, right? But one of I'd say like my favorite tracks from Bob Marley are, Kinky Reggae, Crazy Bald Head, Crisis. I like a lot from the Kaya album. There's this particular live version. I lost the CD so many years ago, and it was a bootleg, one of those bootleg concert recordings, which had an amazing version of Crisis, and I've been looking for it for many, many years. So, I think I'm close to finding it. I found a website where they had all of the Bob Marley bootlegs, but I just haven't had time to go and look into it and find that particular version.
We gonna chase those crazy bald heads out of our town.
Steal your lip, stop, steal your up, stop,
Excellent. All right, we could do this
that's my
all
favorite
day.
Quote.
No, that's the quote. Put it on your tombstone. Yeah. If you can spell it, that would be the at Bob Marley International High School. That's the to win the spelling bee. That's the word that you have to spell to be the champion.
I think it's on the John Scatman tombstone already.
Is it really?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Most likely. Now, did your friend share that passion for DJing with you? Because this became, once you left high school, this became a huge part of your life when you made the big move to the U.S.
Well, yeah. Well, I went actually to the U.S. My friend, strangely enough, he completely abandoned the music world. And what was funny was that in high school I was studying art and he was studying music, and we had to choose between art, music, and drama. And I actually failed art because I found it so boring. We just had to talk about other artists the whole time, and it was really uninspiring. And I think I got an F, unfortunately. And my friend who studied music went into I don't know what he did, like private equity or something after that. And maybe I'm wrong, but something completely
too,
something completely non-musical and more technical. And so, I went to move to America when I was 18 and studied at Boston University. And again, I didn't have anything to do with music, but I was going to a lot of parties while I was, living in the US in college. I'd drive down to New York every weekend as much as I could because Boston was really boring. The musical content on weekends was just, not what I was looking for. So I was going to a lot of raves in New York, and it's at that point that I realized that the parties I was going to, the DJs that were playing just weren't really inspiring me so much, and I was collecting a lot of music, a lot of electronic music, and I was like, well, I can do this better than what I'm than the guys that I'm seeing. And that's why after college I moved to New York and started a weekly party. And basically, it was the beginning of Facebook events, when people actually checked their Facebook events.
Yes.
My first year in college was the first year Facebook started, was 2003.
That's scary. We always say that we were very happy that there was no Facebook when we were in college. And I'm sure there's some stuff on there that you're like, anyway, we can just get rid of that.
I deleted my Facebook page after I reached 5,000 friends, and I couldn't have new friends. So I was like, wow, this is completely pointless now.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. Was that like, imagine that now. Imagine if you hit 5,000 Instagram followers. They're like, that's it.
Well, I
what was the purpose of that?
I think you can't follow more than 5,000 people on Instagram. I mean, I'm not one of these people who like, I'm not going to follow you back or follow anyone. I just follow whoever I want that, like, you know, I find funny or inspiring or whatever. I follow these people. You can never follow too many people, you know, so it's all good, you know, and so, well, I lost my train of thought.
You moved to New York at 21, and was that that's where you were going with, and you were talking about doing these couple of shows. You had Reggae One, so you're continuing on the reggae beat,
right. So I had a reggae weekly on Wednesdays, and on Thursdays I started my electronic music party, which is called Shake and Bake, and
spelled
SHEIKNBEIK.
Yeah.
So kind of like Shake Your Booty, that Frank Zappa album, right? And,
not like Shake and Bake from
because I didn't want the association.
Daytona Nights.
I didn't want the association to the Kraft cheese, you know. So I just said, you know, I'm gonna spell it differently.
Yeah,
and it's still gonna have that nice Talladega Nights ring.
Yeah,
to it.
But that's what makes these parties unique. Sometimes it's just like the cool logo and the cool name that goes behind it. And was that the goal? I mean, was this really the goal?
The goal of starting my own party was that, you know, at the time nobody knew me as a DJ, and in order to be booked somewhere, you have to go and like suck up to someone and like beg to DJ and beg that they'll hire you and then get some shitty slot. So I was like, you know what? I've been going out a lot in New York these last 4 years. I've met lots of people at these parties. You know, I have a lot of Facebook friends. So I'm going to start my
5,000.
Yeah, well, I didn't have 5,000 at that point. I don't think so. But I had like enough to fill up a 300-person room, you know? So I started doing parties at this legendary place called the Belmont Lounge, which was in Union Square. And
I remember the Belmont Lounge.
They had the longest running reggae party in New York City. I think it was on a Monday or on a Sunday. So that's what that place was famous for. And I started doing Shake and Bake there. I did the first one on a Tuesday, actually. I think it was the first party. And it was, you know, 150 to 200 people showed up. The next one, 300 people showed up. And for a while, I was like completely full, and I was DJing the whole time from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. You know, I played the full 6 hours, and I didn't really need to book anybody else. But then it got kind of boring, you know, where I'm like the only person playing, and my friends come and they can't even hang out or talk to me. And my other friends who are also DJs want to play, so I like started booking other people. And got a network of residents, and then, you know, my party moved to a different place eventually, and, you know, it became a Thursday night weekly thing for many years, for 6-7 years, you know. And on weekends, maybe twice or once a month, I would do a warehouse party, you know, with many more people and much later hours and stuff. So eventually, I started doing the festival because I didn't want to be in the warehouse anymore and do this whole, like, you know, gritty New York thing, which I love, by the way. But you know, it was time to move on to new horizons.
Yeah.
And that's how I started the Okeechobee Festival and moved away from New York City. I mean, I still live there, but I stopped doing parties there. And you know, you can still catch me DJing in New York, but I'm not doing the parties anymore. Maybe one day I'll come back and start doing Shake and Bake again. But just right now, my full focus is Okeechobee because it's such a, you know, a crazy amount of work to be done on the production and everything that I can't be focusing on the parties in New York and the festival.
And when you were having these warehouse parties, these were basically in Williamsburg, which at the time was pretty far into most New Yorkers. Now it's like Williamsburg, it's such a hot spot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
yeah.
I remember trying to convince people to come to my party in Williamsburg, and they were like, "Oh my God, it's in Brooklyn!" Like,
how do I get there?
You know,
How do you?
yeah,
exactly. Does the subway go there?
Exactly. And like the beautiful thing is you just get on a 5 minute subway ride on the L train, and you're there. It's not much to it, but at the time it was pretty exotic. And now of course everybody's in Ridgewood, which is like really far.
Yeah. It just keeps the gentrification just keeps going out. Yeah, my first job out of college was in Dumbo. So I was working at off the J Street stop, the first stop in Brooklyn, in a warehouse, and there was nothing around us. It was just like old warehouses that and you could see the you remember the Watchtower, of course, the Jehovah's Witness campus there, that with the big neon sign that said the Watchtower. And they used to film like Law and Order. They would have like cadavers in the street, and they would film those scenes with like a dead body in the street, and because there was nobody down there, so they could do that stuff all day long there. And so we were like, one day this has got to come back. It's on the water. This has got to be a hot spot again one day.
Yeah, no, interesting story. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Interesting story about.
We're here to hear your stories, not mine. So go for it.
Yeah, no, I love the story, but you reminded me of something. So my very first warehouse party. So at the time I'd moved on from Belmont Lounge, and I was doing my weekly parties at this place called Le Royale, which used to be an old West Village hangout spot for John Lennon called Luke's and Leroy's. And it became this funky little happening nightclub ran by this English guy, Terry Casey, and his partner Dave Baxley. And on, I think on Wednesdays was Lady Gaga and Lady Starlight, and who basically was starting out, and I was doing the Thursdays, shake and bake over there on the top floor. And Terry Casey basically had this photography studio on I think on J Street in Dumbo. Yeah. It was called J Street Studio, and that's where I did my first warehouse party. Was J
was it J Street Studio?
Yeah, it was in Dumbo. I booked this guy Clive Henry, and there was this Bailey Funky DJ called Sujinho, who came and did a set also, and then I played, of course, and at the end of the night, this Berlin DJ that was playing at another party came through, and I'm talking the end of the night is 9 a.m. and he hopped on the deck.
I was gonna say, I'm like, by end of the night, you mean the stock market opens?
Yeah, and on Saturday, right? So it wasn't no stock market there, but his name was Sasha Funke. He's on a label. Yeah, he's on a label called Beat Pitch Control, which belongs to Ellen Alien. This was in 2008 at some point, a while ago now.
It's unbelievable, and I remember people before the pandemic started saying, New York is too clean. I miss gritty old New York. And I was like, sweetheart, we could be back there in 20 minutes. You never know what could happen. And then, of course,
absolutely. I mean, if you don't know, you're basically out of the loop.
Yeah. Like you miss what is it you miss? You miss the old the prostitutes at the in a meatpacking district. Like it's like the city is beautiful, and there's plenty of gritty spots around town. And now,
you'll find
they're all back. It's the good old times. They're all back. Crime and all this. But look, it's every city in the U.S. is dealing with the same nonsense. Just a lot of bad behavior everywhere, right?
Absolutely. Where you'll find human beings, you'll find parasites and bad behavior, because the human race is a race that is a huge parasite. We are blood-sucking creatures that just extract as much as we can from the earth and leave it without nothing.
Yeah, look, and the founder of Festival Pass and I threw a lot of parties, and I can't go toe to toe with you, but we should have a new show. Like we should talk to Jimmy Fallon about launching a new show called Story Battle, and it's like you pull up a subject, and two people go at it and tell the best story on that subject. And I think you would win when it comes to parties and talking about parasites. Because as I was saying, we threw Halloween parties, we threw some crazy New Year's Eve parties, and we have stories of a lot of people. One guy in particular ripping us off. But you were hosting a gigantic warehouse Halloween party, and you get to the place day of the event, and the guy just had the place full of crap. Right? It was like just floor to ceiling.
So basically, there's this a place in Williamsburg. It's in the heart of Williamsburg, just off the Bedford L train stop. And it's Terry Casey, who had the Dumbo, photography studio in L'Oreal. He was telling me the whole time, "Oh, don't worry, I've got this spot." But the whole time he was lying. He didn't have the spot yet. It was like this place used to be a disaffected tire company called Supreme Trading, and just before it became Brooklyn Winery, it was this like bar in the front, which was completely mismanaged, and in the back was like this giant room, which is where I was doing my party. And I basically licensed this famous brand from Ibiza called Circo Loco. At the time, they weren't doing too many global parties, and certainly not doing any parties in New York City. And
Circo Loco.
Circo Loco is like the most famous, party in Ibiza. It's at this nightclub called DC10, and they historically do the Monday. They used to do the Monday morning after hour session from We Love Space. We Love Space ended on Sunday at Space, and in the morning they ended in the morning at like 6 a.m. and then at 8 a.m. it would start Circo Loco Monday morning session, which means Crazy Circus, and it would go all day. And now the party's obviously stronger than ever, but it starts much later. It starts at like 4 p.m. and ends God knows when
Might still be
4
going
a.m. or something. Yeah, who knows? And in any case, so I brought them to New York, and I put them on Resident Advisor, which is the place that everyone checks for the underground parties. And I got like contacted by this guy called Nectarios, who basically does the Resolute parties in New York. And at the time, we didn't know each other, and he was just starting out also with his parties around that time, because we were both just starting in the party scene. And he said, "Oh, like I'd love to team up with you." So I said, "Sure, come on board. The more the merrier." And so this place, Supreme Trading, had the room that was full of crap, and then there was a side room which was like an art gallery, which is where he did his DJ. So he had Animal Tech and this Greek DJ Gumi Hertz playing in that side room, and then the front bar room was this other local promoter who now lives in Miami and has a record store called Teabag Records. This guy called Tamer Aga, who basically does black market membership. And so we all teamed up for this Halloween party in 2008. And the room that I was supposed to do the Circo Loco in was just full of stuff to the ceiling. I mean, I brought them over to the place, and I was like, "You guys are going to help me to clear this."
You're the DJs. So all the talent is there cleaning the place out.
No, the promoters.
Okay.
Tamer is also a DJ and a producer, and Nectarios is just a promoter. But they all like really helped out. We were all like, me and my friends, just trying to remove all this stuff. But basically, while we were doing this, the contract was still not signed between Terry and the previous owner. So at some point, the place was double booked by this crazy hardcore band called Nassau Chainsaw, and we didn't know anything about it. And what they
no one wants to know anything about the Nassau Chainsaw.
Yeah, they had a pulley. How do you say this? Like a thing on the ceiling, like a hook with a rope
Like a grappling hook.
Yeah, that had a bar at the end of the rope that had two strings with hooks suspending someone from their kneecaps hooked into their kneecaps, and some guy pulling on the rope that was attached to the ceiling, lifting that person up and down
This is
while
a band? This is a band?
no, this was just a performance while the band was playing scream rock, or whatever you call that on the stage, and some guy with like a metal cutter was like, cutting some metal or something on the stage. It was really crazy, and there was blood all over the place. So we cleared the space, and then they came and used the space from like 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And my party started at 10 p.m. So we had people coming in, like queuing up at the door. I mean, once we announced where this place was, like,
Yeah.
people went crazy. There was like 1,500 people coming to this party. It was like, you have to understand, Circo Loco was like a very big cult following, type of brand.
Yeah, it was the
And
crazy
so
circus. Even I could translate that.
we were mopping the floor, of like removing the blood from the floor, just to make it like, decent. I mean, violating also all sorts of like health code, violations thing. But I mean, this was like
Yeah.
the far west at that point. It was.
People are like,
it was
I
the
think
wild- it
Fight
was the
Club
wild,
happened
wild
in
west.
here this afternoon.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and so, but anyway, we cleaned everything up. People came in. At some point, all the bartenders that were still working from the previous owner, because the guy who signed the contract obviously didn't hire anyone to work the party, realized there was a shit show. So everybody left. They realized the place got sold to someone. All the staff that were working there at the bar left at 5 a.m. or even earlier, and so there was no one left to manage the bar or pour drinks. So, but there was plenty of alcohol. So everyone just went and started serving themselves, alcohol. People like left the place, went to delis, brought back alcohol of their own. It became like a giant house party for 1,000 people, and it went till 10 a.m. And the cool thing was there was a little skylight in the middle of that room, and so when the sun came up, this crazy like beam of light came into the warehouse, and it became this really, really epic
Wow.
party that for many years people talked about. And that was kind of like, also put Shake and Bake on the map, and Resolute and Black Market and all these parties that became kind of like the how do you say, the keystone parties for New York City,
Yeah, these legends don't come from nowhere. They're born out of insane stories, like the fact that Tyler Durden and the guys were just beating each other up or hanging each other from knee clips. So like piercings, essentially.
piercings, like going in the skin and pulling their whole body weight. I mean, I don't know if you can picture it, but it's like
I'm trying to.
Have you seen a cow hanging at a butcher shop? It was kind of like that.
Unbelievable. So after all this, though, and all this craziness, you do decide to go back to school. You went to BU earlier, but then you go to the School of Audio Engineering. Now, were you looking to get?
So none of my friends, or the people I was around, my family or friends, produced any music or even listened to electronic music. So I never really learned from others earlier on, and I really had a big void to fill, and a motivation and a craving to really understand how all of this is made. DJing is one thing. You're playing records, but what happens behind the scenes, right? How is a record made? How is it recorded? How are all these things contributing to the party? And to just have a more you can never stop learning. And I even heard this from the biggest producers. They're students of life. They're always learning from their peers, from others. It's never too late to learn. So I enrolled in the School of Audio Engineering in New York City and went to a 9-month program where for 9 months just went every day and learned studio techniques. And it was not so much a production like Ableton or Logic kind of class. It was more how to use the Neve console, how to use the SSL, what's a compressor, what's a gate, what's a dynamic effect, et cetera, et cetera. So learning really how to work in a studio, and from there on, I built myself a little home studio in my apartment, and I get to play with my toys when I have time. But when I started the festival, unfortunately, I had less and less time, and in order to be creative, I think you need to have kind of like silence around you and just the time to do it. And so, I have big dreams and big plans to get back into the studio, and I always try to fiddle around here and there, but never long enough to put something constructive together. Even though I released some stuff, 6-7 years ago now, I want to get back to work, and I'm planning on having many releases after April.
Yeah. And I mean,
Hopefully.
what a great idea. You're like, after these insane parties you've been throwing, you're like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. And one day I'm going to be 40. And you're like, I'm going to be producing. And producing you can do forever. You can do like Quincy Jones.
It's a meditation. It makes you feel good.
So then, and then after all this craziness, fate kind of intervenes, and you're on your way to Miami for Art Basel. And is it like a lark that you end up in Okeechobee? Like, how did you end up there on the way to Art Basel?
So basically,
were you hitchhiking?
During all of this, I would also like not just throw my own parties, but I would also get at that point like bookings from other people who are doing parties and stuff. And so, at one point I was booked to play in Art Basel, and let's rewind to August, where I had been talking for many years to one of my dear friends was roommates of this guy in Tulane University called Paul Peck, who basically was working at Bonnaroo, and Paul and I had been talking for years about doing the shake and bake tent in Bonnaroo and bringing like a proper like underground electronic music experience to Bonnaroo. And at some point I called Paul in August and I was like, well, let's talk about this. Let's do this. What's going on here? And at that point, I think Live Nation had just acquired Bonnaroo, and Paul had left the company. So he said, you know what, things didn't work out in the end, and I'm actually looking at this property in Florida. You have to come and see it. Let's do this together. So I told him, okay, I'm coming, to Art Basel in December. Let me stop by, Okeechobee, and that's how it happened. I came by and looked at the place, and as soon as I walked the property, I was like, oh my God, this is great, blank canvas, let's do it, and went full steam ahead, never looked back.
So you guys own the entire property?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's a little bit complicated. I won't get into details, but most of the property is owned by my company. Yes.
Amazing. And from there, so he's got the lead on this, and you guys say, we're going to start the thing that we wanted to do at Bonnaroo, and we're going to fill the void that is left from Art Basel just being art and whatever. We're going to be an underground dance party. We're going to be all of these things with art.
Well, at that point, it was much more than what we were planning to do at Bonnaroo. It became like, just like let's just do it all from scratch. So we obviously, shaped the whole festival together. And, I took my parties from New York City. And as I told you, I stopped doing that at that point, because then I started focusing solely on Okeechobee, and the continuation of Shake and Bake, my party brand, became one of the stages here in Okeechobee called Jungle 51. And that's where we have the all-night techno and house music party going on, essentially.
And luckily, there's no neighbors around to complain.
Well, every year we get, maybe 5-6 complaints from the base, but we have a whole sound SWAT team set up. And, if there's a complaint, they can dial a number, and we send the sound SWAT team to the location, accompanied by a law enforcement officer. And we basically, radio back to the stages and try to turn down those frequencies that are bothering them. And we're trying to be good neighbors here. We're always looking for solutions and not problems.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. You're part of the community. You guys are bringing
Absolutely.
a lot of people. How many people attend? This is the 5th annual coming up, correct?
Yes.
Or 5th, I should say.
Yeah, the 5th event.
Had to take a break.
We took a break year 4. We didn't do it in 2019. Obviously it's a very tough business, and to find the right solution. I mean, if anybody asks me whether they should start a festival or not, I tell them to think again, and you better have a huge appetite, because finding the solution to making it a success is very, very complex. Even partnering up, the last edition, 2020, and now 2022. We took 2021 also off because of the pandemic. Even partnering up with Insomniac, who are the biggest festival in the US. They do EDC Las Vegas, and they're working under Live Nation also, who are the biggest concert promoters in the world. Even with all this help and the support, I mean, it's still very, very hard to make the numbers work. So
look, people think it's a party, but it's a business, and you guys are entrepreneurs, and you had to start from nothing, and you had a field, and you turned it into this great thing.
I think we offer a pretty good deal for the $300 and plus that are includes a ticket and then an add-on like a car. It's hovering around 300, and then with the add-ons, the car pass, etc., etc. It's still a pretty good deal for what you're getting. 4 days of uninterrupted music in some of the most beautiful, pristine festival grounds that you'll ever find in the US, at least. Try finding a better deal. People still always find a way to complain about things. When they don't quite understand how the sausage is made. But there's a lot of work, a lot of effort that's put into this business, and a lot of love. It comes from heart, from being a festival goer and being a customer of these events myself, and wanting things to be perfect for the fans, for the attendees.
What were the festivals that you went to leading up to starting your own?
Well, I mean, I've been a lot to Mutech in Canada. That's a techno electronic music broadly festival. Lovely festival organized by some very intelligent and creative people. Sonar in Barcelona. Burning Man, of course. I find it's so cliche to say it, but Burning Man is obviously the elephant in the room here. And people always ask me, so how is your festival? I'm like, well, it's kind of like Burning Man, but with trees and grass and lakes, and but you're basically camping, and you're bringing everything in, and it doesn't stop for 4 days. Burning Man goes for a week, but unfortunately we have to pay our artists, and we have to pay the operations, so we wouldn't be able to sustain it for a week. For sure, we'd have to bring the price up a lot higher, and the county wouldn't be very happy with that, I think. Also.
No. Well, speaking of the county, was that was the local government one of the biggest hurdles in getting this thing off the ground in the first place?
Listen, I think that the government, the local county have been extremely supportive, and it's been a romance in the make. As we've gone along with the years, but they've been generally very, very supportive. And of course, when they have concerns, we listen. And when they have concerns, we listen. And when we have concerns, they listen too. So it's a game of push and pull. And the concessions you give, you take somewhere else, and vice versa.
The partnership, though, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the sheriff, the county is run by the sheriff here, and the commissioners have always been, big supporters of the event, and most people in the county are generally supportive. There's always going to be people who live in this rural community, and they don't want their way of life being interrupted by all these young, boisterous people coming here. But I think generally, our festival goers and attendees are very caring, respectful, nice people that pick up the trash behind them, and it's all about love and respect and peace and unity, plur, as they say.
Well, speaking of all that trash, I mean that is a problem. At the end of a festival, and I know that one of the things that you're passionate about is your philanthropy, and particularly keeping water clean, keeping rivers and oceans free of plastic. So, what do you guys do at the end of the festival when you've got a ton, and quite literally a ton, of trash? How do you make sure that that's disposed of properly, recycled, etc.?
So we work with a very talented third-party company called Clean Vibes, and Clean Vibes is basically comprised of mostly volunteers.
Now that sounds like a Marley album right there. Clean Vibes.
Yeah, Clean Vibes, exactly. So they work a bunch of different festivals. They're always cleaning up during the festival. I think like they do like some sort of a program where the people that work for them can get a ticket after they put in so many hours of work or merch, or whatever that is. There's some sort of bartering going on, and some people, of course, are paid, depending on what position of management they are in. But they do a stellar job. They're cleaning all throughout the festival, and then when everyone's gone, they stay a bunch of days, to rack all the fields in a line, kind of like when people search for bodies in an avalanche.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. So, Clean Vibes is just a stellar team that really help us a lot in this festival. Other than that, we were talking about my philanthropy. Well, it's not so much my philanthropy, but this team of brothers and sisters called Gary, Sam, and Kelly Benshagib, who all grew up in Bali, and they have French parents, and they started an organization called Make a Change World. And what Make a Change World do is that they've realized that, plastics that end up in the ocean, 90% of them come from rivers. So if we can stop the plastic being dumped at illegal dump sites at rivers, then we can solve the plastic situation. And of course, it's a much bigger conversation, going to, some of the biggest polluters in the world are big multinational companies such as Danone and Coca-Cola, and so they are the ones that are not cleaning up their mess by producing all of their products, and then hey, whatever, once it's bought, it's out of our hands, we don't care. So it would be nice to see them coming and taking responsibility for all of that, and setting up those programs. It shouldn't come from people like Gary and Sam and Kelly. It should really come from these executives, and also the petrochemical companies that are making this stuff. And you'd be surprised, there's huge lobbies in the US who are fighting very hard to make sure that these plastics keep on being made and keep on being sold. It's crazy.
And during the festival, do you bring that philanthropic element to it? Is that like people can donate to that cause, or they can are they encouraged to clean up after themselves rather than just throw the plastic on the ground?
We haven't really made a proper link yet. Sustainability costs a lot of money, sadly. Yeah. So to be sustainable is a luxury, is a first world luxury, and you have to be very successful in order to implement a lot of these things. So every year we try to do a little bit more. For instance, we're trying to bring more real toilets with plumbing, and not have to bring in all of those plastic toilets that people love so much. The porta potties.
Yeah, they love them,
and people just love them, and all the horror stories that come with them. So obviously that's a big one. Other than that, Clean Vibes is obviously recycling a lot of the plastic. There's hundreds of initiatives that can be done. I think that the benchmark when it comes to sustainable festivals is the Boom Festival in Florida, which I love and cherish and have been a bunch of times. Everything they build over there is out of bamboo. We have a lot of bamboo here. We're also planting a lot of bamboo, and they have also these compostable toilets, which have instead of liquid, you're basically doing your duties on top of wood chips that are sitting inside of large, huge trash bins that are under the toilets, and they get wheeled in and out, every now and again, and then buried in the earth, and you can't throw paper or anything else than organic matter in those toilets, and then they get buried and they get naturally composted in the ground, and then you can grow all sorts of things from there. You can grow vegetables and tomatoes, and you can then put them into sandwiches and eat that. The cycle of life, right?
The cycle of your waste coming to a sandwich near you. All right. Well, look, I went down that because I was interested to hear, because that is I know that's an important thing for you. So glad that you guys are continuing to get towards that more sustainable level for the festival. And yeah, it is true. It's like everybody wants to recycle and all this. And it's like, do you have any idea how expensive this stuff is? So
it's super expensive. Yeah. And I encourage everyone to go follow, Sam and Gary and Kelly's page. It's called Make a Change World on Instagram. And then they also started this new venture. It's called Sungai Watch, Sungai Watch. And what they're doing is that they're planting metal forks in Bali has 1,000 rivers. And so they're putting a fork in each of the thousands of rivers. And then for each river, they have a team of local community that live around there. And they go and check that fork every single day. And you'd be surprised at how much plastic they remove every day from these forks. And then, go up the river, educating people to not throw plastics. Of course, most of it comes from illegal dump sites, because there's a huge trash problem. Nobody wants to take care of trash. And so, by sorting this plastic, they then make furniture and all sorts of things. I mean, follow their Instagram page, full of really, really lovely, positive stories, and they're doing God's work, basically.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me about what you have in store for year 5. Did I see that Megan Thee Stallion is going to be there, or was that the music of?
I think that's what everyone's extremely excited to see. Megan Thee Stallion, myself included. I think she's such an amazing entertainer, performer, and fun to watch, and great music. And I can't wait to see her play on Saturday night. Absolutely. As well, we also have the powwow, which is kind of like our our mashup of artists that we bring out every year. Last time was with Corey Wong, that was leading it in 2020, and for this time it's George Clinton and the Parliament Funkadelics.
Wow!
With a bunch of special guests that are coming in.
And that's the powwow. But what is the portal?
The portal. Well, the portal is kind of like our logo. It's a swirl. And it's basically, kind of like Stargate. You're going into another dimension when you're entering the portal. It's also our 4 different entrances to the festival. We call them Portal 1, Portal 2, Portal 3, Portal 4. So these are the portal. It's coming into the festival. You're leaving your old life behind, and you're entering the portal. And then once you're entering the portal, that's when the magic happens, and anything
cosmic.
Goes. Yeah, absolutely.
So you said $300.
That's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to bring a little bit of magic and fun to people's lives, without getting too serious or pretentious about it. Come and camp and listen to some great music and enjoy yourself as much as you can.
So for $300, you can come camp. You can get all this music all weekend long, but you can also upgrade and get some VIP stuff. So look, I'm not in my 20s. I'm not.
Absolutely. So while you're at the festival, if you're not enjoying your GA experience, you can always go to a VIP kiosk at all the stages have them, and you can get an upgrade right there on the spot. And then you have your VIP upgrade.
Yeah, I'm all about the glamping. I am not about GA anymore. I think those days are behind me.
After a certain age, it takes a toll on you for sure.
So how do they come and find tickets to this? How can if I wanted to get my glamping on, if I want to see Megan Thee Stallion, if I want to see all these great artists, how can we find out more? So
you can always follow all of our social media. Obviously, the Instagram, it's Okeechobee at Okeechobee Fest, at Okeechobee Fest. And then there's the website at www.okeechobee.com. okeechobeefest.com. And from there on, it'll say tickets, and you click on tickets, and it'll take you to the front gate system of Live Nation. And, you can then acquire whatever combination of tickets that pleases you or that you can afford, of course, and from there on, we still have very few tickets to sell right now, but there's still some online.
So you can get them online, and you can get your Megan Thee Stallion on. You can get your glamping on, all of it. And what are the dates? It's coming up in March.
Yeah, so this is really soon. This is March 3rd to March 7th.
March 3rd. So it's the perfect pre-St. Patrick's Day party for everybody looking to pre-game and get ready. When is
St. Patrick's?
The 17th.
Yeah, or if you're really into presidents, which is President's Day the next weekend, it's your post-President's Day celebration.
There it is.
I don't know. People have weird fetishes these days. So
post-President's Day, pre-St. Patrick's Day, and it's all happening, folks. Check it out. And once again, the Instagram and all the social media is at Okeechobee Fest.
Okeechobee Fest. And Okeechobee is spelled Okeechobee Fest.
There it is. See, I told you this guy was a spelling champion. I knew it. I knew it was in there. Excellent. Well, folks, that is all the time we have. We have to jump through the portal, and we will be back, though, with another episode through the portal of Festival Pass Stories. Julio, thank you. We'll see you in Okeechobee.
It's me who thanks you. I've had such a great time talking to you. It takes me back to memory lane, reminiscing on all these parties. Not every day I get to share that with everybody.
Excellent. Thanks. We'll see you next time, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
This is Festival Pass Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next.